So let's talk about my payday routine. Now, if you've ever seen any of my budgeting videos, then you kind of get an idea of a piece of my payday routine, but you don't know it from beginning to end. And unless you have been watching my videos, I have talked about it here and there, and I give you advice on what you should do. If you put it all together, you probably have figured it out, but I don't really think it's in any video, and maybe it is. But now this is how I would advise that you handle your payday routine. But hey, everyone's different. Take what tips that work for you from it, and hopefully it can make paying your bills and managing your money a smoother process. So before payday, I actually had to pay attention to what I do, because you know how it is, you know what you do, but when you're telling someone else, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. I actually just got paid, and what I do is I know payday is coming up, and so I budget by paycheck. I need to know where I stand so that once payday hits, I'm able to take action. In order to do that, I already have a budget set up for the month. And then I also have the paycheck budget for the first paycheck of the month already created. I don't create the second paycheck budget of the month until the week before I get paid for that second time during the month. The week of payday, I actually go back the paycheck budget that I already have been working from the previous pay period, and I start analyzing my spending. So even though at this point I don't have to track my spending as closely as I have in the past, but this year, because a lot is happening, I am tracking my spending. So what I do is I go in, I do an analysis of how I spent my money for the previous 2 weeks. Now, typically this is pretty easy because I've already been in there checking on my budget, seeing what's going on, making sure things aren't going too crazy, because something may have already come up. So I was already in there making sure okay, where are we? Where can we pull some money from? How can we cash flow this? So I'm looking at how I spent for those previous 2 weeks. Now, I like to do this because it actually gives me the ability to adjust during the month just in case something happens. I don't want to have to look at the end of the month and figure out, oh my goodness, I overspent, what do I do? I like to make adjustments in the middle of the month. It gives me a little bit more control, and I don't feel caught off guard. I feel more comfortable because I know exactly where I stand. Sometimes what I'll see is maybe, I overspent in a category, and I adjust accordingly for the next 2 weeks. Sometimes I overspend and I already know what it is, and I gotta pull from savings or whatever. And it's not because I overspent because I just overspent. Sometimes it's emergency, something came up, maybe we thought we could cash flow it, it's not looking good because this and this and this has happened afterwards, because sometimes things don't just come in one thing, it comes in multiples. And so I make adjustments accordingly. Sometimes I underspend, and so now that money is available either to carry forward for the rest of the month if I choose to, but there's other things you can do with it, right? If you are looking to build your savings up, then maybe you take that extra money that you have left over and transfer it into your savings. I like to transfer things into sinking funds, especially if I have some new ones. So I have new sinking funds that I haven't had previously. So any money currently that is left over from spending, I just put it into those sinking funds to help me get there a little bit faster, give me a little more comfort. And then you can also invest it if that's something you've been focused on. But if you're paying off debt, put it towards your debt. So typically I would put it towards my student loans because that is what I am focused on. But because I know there are things coming up, I'm just trying to pad those first and then use the extra money that I have dedicated for paying off my student loans. Now, from this point, I go ahead and I'm creating my paycheck budget. And when I'm creating my paycheck budget, I am making adjustments, making sure the numbers make sense. I am a zero-based budgeter. I like to operate that way because I like to give every dollar a job. And for me, it actually eliminates thinking. And because I do a lot of things and I have a position that calls me to do a lot of thinking, so if I can make things a little bit easier in my life, if it's zero-based and I know everything is taken care of, I know exactly where it should go, and if I question it, I can go look and see where it's supposed to go. I don't have to figure it out later. I don't want to do that. So I create my zero-based budget. But it's also very easy for me to create my zero-based budget because as a paycheck budgeter, I have already designated what bills gets paid in what check. And I am a month ahead. So I've talked about this in a couple videos, but in this example for this current month, this is February. All my February bills were paid with paychecks from January. And so in February, I'm just making sure the bills get paid. But I still want to make sure that the budget is together because, again, I don't want to end up in a situation where I overspend and then now I'm not a month ahead on my bills. So I'm creating the budget to make sure that we stick to what we're spending, but then also that the money goes where it needs to go. But even if you're not a month ahead, because I wasn't always a month ahead, I had to work towards getting a month ahead. And if you want to figure out how to do that, I have 2 different videos on it. One is with windfalls and the other is without windfalls. So windfalls are like bonuses, tax returns, things like that, you know, money coming in. And without windfalls is how you build through it with like maybe the extra paydays in a month. If you have extra cash flow, putting that money aside so that you can build up to getting there. Okay, so definitely check that out after this video if that is something that you are interested in. But to give you an idea of how I do things, so my larger bill payments are split in half. So my rent / mortgage, that is split in half. So every time I get paid, half of the amount that I contribute to rent is put to the side into my bill account, and that's another thing that I'll talk about in a minute. And then the next time I get paid, the other half is put into my bill account. So going into the month, the rent is paid. And actually, in my case, since I'm married, my spouse does something similar. It's something that I kind of introduced to him, and I introduced it because I don't like paying all my rent and everything, like mortgage, rent at the beginning of the month, and then everything is tight until you get paid again at the end of the month. I don't like that. I kind of like to even things out so that I have about the same amount of money available after each payday. I split that in half. I used to split my student loans in half, but I currently do not. But student loans is another thing that you can split in half. If you have a large car payment, because the car payments these days, woo, rough. If you have a large car payment, you could split that in half if it makes things work for you. But again, you have to plan for that so you can kind of get ahead of that payment to do it. All right. And then for the rest of my bills, what I do is typically everything between the 1st and the 15th, 16th-ish is paid with the second paycheck of the month, because it's paid, of course, before it's due, and then everything due between, I'm gonna still say the 16th-ish or the 17th through the end of the month is paid with the first paycheck of the month. Now, if you are not a month ahead, right, because in order for me to do that, I had to be a month ahead. It's something that you may have to work towards. So it may be a situation where your bills or it's going to be your first check does the 1st through the 15th and your second check does the 16th through the end of the month or whatever. But just know that once you get ahead, you should already kind of be ahead of that payment no matter what. Even if, and I'll say this should be like a mini goal, if you can't get a full month ahead, even getting one paycheck ahead, so that second paycheck of the month is paying for the next month's beginning of the month bills, it'll make things a little bit smoother for you, and it just gives you a head start. Now, one thing I want to bring up, if you have a situation, which I currently have, is you have more bills in the second half of the month than the first half of the month, or maybe vice versa, but see how you can set it up where you can shift some of those bills to whichever paycheck to make it a little bit easier, especially if you want to be in a situation where you don't have where you're not tight at one part of the month and then other part of the month you have like a lot of money. Now, if it works for you, be my guest. Or if you want to shift that extra money, some of that extra money you have left over in the first part of the month, and make sure you save it for the second part of the month to spend, then you can do that also. But in my case, I have shifted a few of my bills where they get paid earlier so that it's kind of like a close to an even amount of money that's being paid out every paycheck. And for my tithe payers out there, my tithe is considered a bill. And if you don't pay tithes, then just ignore this part and keep your commentary to yourself. Okay? But yes, it is a bill. So I consider it a bill just so that it makes things easier for me to compute. All right, so this is before I even get paid. So now on payday, which my paydays are on Fridays, I get paid bi-weekly. On payday, the first thing I do is I'm checking to make sure that I got the right amount of money in every bank account. Now, I am salary, so I don't even have to look at my paycheck stuff. But if you're not salary or you're working overtime, things like that, you need to be checking your paycheck stuff and making sure you got all your money, okay? Because we're not gonna pretend like jobs don't make mistakes. The people who are in payroll are human and things happen. And so make sure that you got all of your money. Now, I have mentioned this a lot of times. I have multiple bank accounts. That's what works for me. So money is normally going into bill accounts, my fund money account. One is going directly into a sinking fund for my kid. I just have that one kind of just automatically go, and then savings. And even with my savings money, that money also includes investing. My automatic investing happens for my retirement account. That happens before I even get my money. So 401k investing goes. Any other investing is also done on an automatic basis. It does not happen on my paydays per se because, you know, with the shift, I just have a set date that is automatically withdrawn from my account, and I know it, and I have it in a certain account, so the money is already there waiting to go. Like, that's part of bills. That's how I look at it. It's a bill account because I don't play with my bill account. That money sits separately than anything else I use. And then I check my bank accounts. I have a way that I just quickly check my bank accounts daily to see if the money is in there, what's going on, make sure nothing's happening, nobody's like slipping money out of my account. But any bills that are not on automatic payment, they get paid on payday. I have been paying bills on payday for years. I probably have been doing this since when I tell the story of how like I used to end up with like a little bit of money left before payday, maybe like 20 bucks and stuff, because I wasn't controlling my spending. One of the things I implemented when I started budgeting was I went ahead and paid all my bills because I wanted to be in a position where I kind of knew what I had to play with. And I have just kept that going this whole time. So all bills are paid that are not automatic are paid on payday because it's done. You don't have to think about it. I don't have to remember due dates because you know how it is. You're like, oh, I gotta pay this bill. I gotta pay this bill. Especially if you have a credit card. You don't want to be late because you don't want to have to pay the late charge. So it's like, instead of having to remember to pay this bill, just pay it on payday. Now the money's gone. It's whatever. You was gonna pay it anyway. So what does it matter? It don't matter. Pay the bill. Pay the bill. So I pay all bills on payday. I think another reason I do this, especially for those of you with one checking account, is I just didn't want to mess up and spend my bill money because I've done it before when I was younger. So like if I paid everything on payday, by the Monday, all of that stuff was clearing, and I already kind of had an idea because I would write out like, okay, pay this, should have this left, this needs to go here, here, but like literally I would know exactly where I should end up. And so it just helped make things a lot easier, because if I messed around and forgot that I didn't pay a bill and saw money in my account, especially then, the money's gone. If you don't have direct deposit set up where you have money going to savings, you definitely should pay yourself first. That is why I have money that automatically goes to savings. I'm going to pay myself first before I pay any of these other people. So make sure that you have maybe like an automatic transfer set up on your account. Pay yourself first. If you pay tithe, set aside your tithe money also. Make sure you get that taken care of, and then make sure you pay your bills, okay? But just make sure that you are paying yourself. Now, once I pay my bills, I start shifting funds into sinking funds. And so part of the money that I have go over with my kid fund, sinking fund, I like just take that piece and like shift it out. And I have something that automatically runs for me, but you don't have to. If you know what you need, you could start moving your money into your sinking funds. Now, I know some people are cash people. I am not a cash girly. That is too much work for me in my eyes, okay? I set all this stuff up electronically. My sinking fund sit at Ally. Ally has the ability where they have a checking account, and then I have the savings with the buckets, and I just have it go into the checking. It transfers into the savings, and then it goes into its buckets for me. So that's what I do. You can also manually do it. That's fine. What I realized is that I would have a whole bunch of money in my Ally checking. I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized, oh, you didn't make the transfer. Because again, I need to make things easier for me. So just set it up automatically. But if you are good at doing that stuff, do that. If I am making any extra debt payoff payments, I typically make mine at the end of the month. I put money towards that. If I decided last minute I need to save for something because I see something going left, like right now I see something going left, I need to put a little money aside for, and I put that money aside for that also. And from there, because my spending money goes directly to my spending account, I don't think about that. That money also includes grocery money, by the way, for me. So my spending account catches like all my extra like lifestyle fun stuff plus groceries. So that's why I try to be hard on that, like on that grocery budget. I don't want to go over on groceries and then dip into my, you know, my fun stuff. Like for groceries, I ain't trying to do that. So I don't have to worry about that. But if you are a cash budgeter, or if you only have one checking account, you need to make sure you have that set aside and ready to go and know what those amounts are going to be. And after that, we are done. I've been doing it for so long. It's a quick routine for me. I know for others, like it may be a little longer at first. I just want to be real about that because you're trying to make sure you have everything going where it's supposed to go. But once you get your routine down, I don't even know if I'm spending like a total of maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20. I like to say 30 because I want to make sure that I'm including, like, sometimes I might be looking into other expenses or trying to figure out why I spent this money here or something like that. But typically I've already done that. For the rest of the time until my next payday, typically tracking any income I'm bringing in, any expenses. I try to like track that every few days, especially when I am really micromanaging my finances like I currently am. But if I'm more in a chill state and I don't think there's a lot going on, then I'm checking, you know, maybe like once a week, like what are you spending on and what does the income look like, until we come up on pay week again, and then we're truly analyzing the numbers. If you're at the end of this video, you have not liked or subscribed, I'm gonna need you to like and subscribe because you've been here for a minute, and we would love to have you over here. And if you want to learn how to get 1 month ahead on your bills, then check out this video right here.